You're listening to the Access Success Podcast, produced by AccessU, a division of Access Advertising and Public Relations. Hey, let's do something big. I'm your host, Rachel Schneider. Welcome to the Access Success Podcast, where we highlight important topics focused on education in every form it takes. We brought in AccessU digital marketing specialist Lucas Weaver again today to talk about some exciting updates that we have, not just for our clients, but in the world of digital media and marketing and data tracking, all of that, all of the different tools that we can use to track your company's performance, things that are happening online, conversations, media hits. There's so much to go over, so I'm just going to get right into it with Lucas today. Lucas, thanks again for coming on and chatting with us.
Yeah, glad to be here again.
Awesome. So, Lucas, tell us about this new program that you're working with here at AccessU and what it's like to work with compared to others that maybe we've used in the past to track data.
Yeah, so we recently installed Salesforce Marketing Cloud Intelligence. And so this is a product that Salesforce recently bought that basically allows us to bring data in from all sorts of different tools and platforms to get a holistic view of data to tell a better story all in one place. So instead of having to, look at data from Google Analytics in one place and then Facebook ads in another place, LinkedIn ads, and so forth, and bring all that data maybe into a report or an Excel file manually, this will automatically do it for you. And so it allows us to be more efficient and get closer to that story faster.
And can you talk a little bit about how this allows us to use APIs from most major tools to automatically just put that data all in one place? Like, how does it do this, and how accurate is it when you're going through a report?
So I'd say it's very accurate. It's data coming directly from these sources. With any sort of analytics and data reporting, there's going to be a margin of error, but you can select which data you want to come through and map it. With the API, the good thing is that those fields are already mapped, so you really don't have to do a whole lot. But if there are certain fields or metrics or dimensions that you would like in addition, you can also create customized mapping fields, so you can bring in any sort of data that you would like. So I do think it's accurate, and then you can also use that data the way that you need it and put it where you need it for better analysis.
So I also heard about how this tool has Einstein Insights. Can you talk about what that all includes?
Yeah, so Einstein Insights are really cool because it's kind of like an AI where there are certain ratios and certain metrics within the tool. What we do, so we have TapClicks. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I don't. Please tell me.
Yes. So TapClicks we have a vendor that we work with, Lee Amplified, to do a lot of our digital planning and placement. So they run a lot of ads for us on Facebook, through Google paid search, etc. And so we have used that tool to talk to Marketing Cloud Intelligence. And so that data is coming immediately from TapClicks and Lee Amplified into Marketing Cloud Intelligence. And so there are certain metrics within there, like click-through rate or cost per click, which are important ratios that we look at. And click-through rate is just, it's your clicks divided by your impressions. So it's essentially how many clicks you get for how many times your ads are being seen. And then cost per click is just the average cost that it takes for someone to click on an ad. And that has to do with bidding and what your competition is paying for their ads as well as your own. So that is constantly fluctuating. So there are those metrics that are in Marketing Cloud Intelligence, and basically what Einstein Insights will do is take those ratios, look back at the historical data, see any patterns and trends that are happening, and telling you, okay, this ad set or these specific ads are doing particularly well during this time. Throw more money behind it. Focus on those. Yeah.
So it gives you that specific of a direction from that insight to know what your next step needs to be.
Basically. So with these KPIs, like if you know that there's a certain ad that's doing really well, like with click-through rate, obviously the algorithms are favoring that ad, and it's performing well. So you really want to double down on that and then focus more funds on those ads that are already performing well, because again, it's going to feed into itself and project even farther, and maybe take funds out of ones that are not performing as well. So basically what Einstein Insights is doing is telling you, okay, these are performing well, these are not performing well, here's where you should focus your campaign. So that's why it's super important and kind of exciting, because it takes out some of the guesswork. It's automatically telling you, okay, here's what's performing well, here's what isn't. And that lets us decide, okay, this is what we should focus on for this campaign, and maybe we should, retire this creative or change something up if things aren't performing the way we want it to.
Gotcha. So for companies and businesses or institutions right now that just use Google Analytics or just use one program to track their data and how many clicks they're getting, I mean, what would be the difference in now using a tool like this?
So with just Google Analytics or one tool, you're only getting one little snippet of what your data is doing. So yes, Google Analytics is great. Everybody should be using that. That's the main way that most people see their website data and know how their website's performing. But if you're adding in digital campaigns, you can see how your ads are doing, maybe like in Google Ads or in Facebook ads, and there are ways to get those to talk to Google Analytics, which is great. Mm-hmm. But I think Einstein and I think Marketing Cloud Intelligence does a better job of pulling in that data, and you can see it side by side to know how your Google Ads or your Google Analytics and your Facebook ads are really performing in hand to increase your campaign and increase your brand image.
And being that it's so much more intuitive and it displays it in a more visually understandable way, I mean, how is this helpful then working with clients when it comes to sharing this data for review and deciding what next steps could possibly be?
Yeah, so it's great. So it's entirely customizable. So, for each of our major clients, I have dashboards set up in there that are unique to them. It uses their imagery. It's kind of white label. We use their logos. We include our own as well. But it's very customized to their experience and their brand. So whenever I'm sharing these reports with them, it's easily done through a link, and they can go in and see their own brand, their own data, and then share that off however they need to with their own internal stakeholders. And they can even manipulate it. So it's super easy to navigate and easy to use, because I can set it up to have it change the date range. So if they want to go back and look at data from, January until March, let's say, for an example, they can do that, or then they can switch it back to just the past few months and see, okay, here's where we've been, here's where we're going, and see what kind of improvements their data has had over time.
And how long have we been using this? What's the reaction that you've gotten so far working with clients who discover what all this can do?
Yeah, so this is actually fairly recent for us. This was completed within the last few months. I think we wrapped it up in October. Mm-hmm. So I've really just now gotten started into using it for some of our bigger clients. But so far the reaction has been really positive. I've used it for Richfield and sent out their reports that way now. And I think the client was really excited to see this intuitive tool that they could go in and dig in the data themselves and see trends and performance.
Yeah. And I mean, let's just talk about the importance of tracking this type of data for a second for companies who may not be using a tool at all, or maybe they're not working with an agency that has these capabilities. What could be the difference in using something like this, or making sure that you know how your data is performing and how your ads are performing online? Because we still have a lot of clients that are just kind of dipping their toes into the digital marketing sphere. And what would be your advice to them?
Certainly, you don't want to be making decisions in the dark. So, I think data is so important, especially these days, and to know how your content is doing and what your users and your customers want to see, and your clients and your students. And so I think you're not going to survive if you're not looking at the hard data and telling or understanding the story that data is trying to tell you. Okay, so you have to make your decisions based on research, and tools like Marketing Cloud Intelligence give you that ability to see the story, to see, okay, here's what's working well for us, here's what our users would like to see moving forward, and what maybe is not resonating so well with them.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you said. Don't be making decisions in the dark. I mean, you definitely, from a public relations perspective too, you want to gauge how your brand is being talked about and what, is the context there. But the numbers don't lie. I mean, so seeing that information visually in a way that you can understand and that it's user friendly is so important, especially for somebody like me who does not work with numbers. And, I wouldn't know what a CTR or CPC is until you explain it to me. So can we talk about that too, about having a pro on your team who knows how to read this data, who understands what needs to go into programming a program like this so it can track your data properly, and, overall, like working with obviously someone like you, an agency who can make these evaluations.
Yeah, I actually do want to back up for a second too, because you brought up a good point about PR. So what's really cool about this tool is also we can bring in that PR data. So like, for instance, I know we work a lot with Muck Rack to get our coverage reports and see which articles we've been able to land after pitching. So it's cool because all of that data, that those unique visitors per month and engagement from articles, that can all be pulled into Marketing Cloud Intelligence and be reported on as well. So I did want to mention that too.
Oh, yeah. That is super helpful. And just because we've worked with several different programs and websites like Cision and then Muck Rack, and I'm in like an online networking group with other PR professionals who have been talking about like, okay, what's the best pitching or email platform to use? And everybody goes off about what features they have and don't have. And, sometimes there are not a lot of reporter contacts in them and you have to update data so much more frequently. Muck Rack has been great to use, but I love the feature that you just said is included in this program, that it can all just pull it into one, because not only does that help everybody save time pulling together a coverage report and then narrowing everything down, I mean, when you have that automatically shuffling into your report and you can share with the client and they have a link and they can see it in real time,
right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing.
For companies that may not have a digital marketing specialist like you on the team, why is it so important to have somebody who can read this data? Because it's one thing to set up a program or have Google Analytics, but why is it important to make sure you're literate in this type of thing?
Yeah, so I think kind of it goes back to being in the dark. You need to understand, you need to have the data, but then you also need to understand what the data is trying to tell you, because it can get very technical. So I think it is important to have someone either on your team or that you partner with that is literate in digital marketing and really knows what these numbers mean. Because I can spit out terms all day like CTR and cost per click and impressions and reach and all of that, but unless you actually know what those numbers mean, then you can't really make important decisions based on what that data is trying to tell you. Does that make sense? Totally.
And I feel like that's a huge, huge thing for companies and institutions to think about, or even small business owners to know, if they're really trying to maintain a following with their business online, if they want to see how ads are performing, then looking into some of these things themselves and learning, okay, this is how effective it could be if we have, X number of, what was it, clicks per...
CTR, it's like, so CTR is clicks over impressions. So it's clicks divided by impressions and then multiplied by 100. So it's essentially how many clicks you're getting based on the numbers of impressions or how many times your ad is being seen. And I will say too that there are different goals in digital marketing, okay? So you might want to increase your brand awareness, okay? So that would be trying to reach more people. And that's where metrics like reach and impressions are really important, because you just want to reach a broader, greater audience, more people trying to get your brand out there in front of more eyes. But then I think the biggest name in the game is probably conversions and then retention. So that has to do more with the clicks and the click-through rate, where you're trying to get, and it's all based on the customer journey. Okay, so you've got awareness, interest, consideration, conversion, and then retention. So, and each different digital marketing goal sits at different points within that customer journey. But I'd say most of us are trying to get those clicks, those conversions, and then retaining your customers or your students and your clients. So it all depends on which tactics you're using, but that's why I say that, clicks in your CTR are probably some of the biggest metrics that we look at, and that's why they're so important. And it's important to understand what they mean so that you can make better decisions, because then you can say, okay, I've got a campaign running, but my clicks I'm not getting very many conversions. They're not taking the actions that I want them to take. And my data's telling me that. I'm not seeing the numbers or the benchmarks or the goals that I'm trying to reach. So what do I need to do to change to make sure we can hit those goals?
Lucas, thank you for diving in and explaining that and breaking it down for me. Can you explain your recent certifications that you actually obtained for this? And I mean, since this is the Access Success podcast, I wanted to congratulate you on that again for that accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you. So I've done a couple different certifications now. One of those being way back when was Google Analytics, so it's important to have my certification in that just so I understand what GA is and how it works. One thing I will mention about that, though, is I'm actually about to work on my Google Analytics 4 certification, which is really important because, as we know...
And that's separate. That's new.
Yes, that is new, and that's important because Universal Analytics is going away by, I think it's this summer in 2023.
So the old version, the current version of Google Analytics is now, it's going to just be Google Analytics 4.
Yes, that version will be retired. Universal Analytics, our current one that most everybody uses, and GA4 is what is taking its place. And GA4 is more user-centric as opposed to session-centric. And that's really important because of recent changes that have happened with like iOS and data tracking. And so that's why it's important for your digital marketers and, myself and other people in agencies and whatnot to go ahead and get that certification in GA4. So I did want to mention that.
So heads up, everybody, if you're not ready for GA4, we can help you out.
Yes.
We've got a certification on the way.
That's right. And it's important to get it set up now, your GA4 now, because you don't want to be caught in a hard place in a couple months where UA is going away and you no longer have the data because your GA4 isn't set up, because it's going to be a hard stop. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you need to be proactive about it, and we can help with that. So I was also working on getting a certification through the Digital Marketing Institute, and that was in collaboration with the American Marketing Association, but essentially it's just a digital marketing professional certification just so I could get really in depth and learn more about digital marketing and what all it entails, Google Analytics, paid search, technical SEO, off-page SEO, on-page SEO, and et cetera. So that's been really helpful and to help me understand, what is the data, what does it mean? But then before that, I also was able to work on my PESO certification, which is paid, earned, shared, and owned. And it's more kind of on the PR side, but it does bring in digital with paid and how all of that different content works together to really amplify your message and get you seen.
Fantastic. Well, Lucas, thanks again for being able to come on the show and share this with us. I mean, it's so helpful to have you on the team and be our go-to person for explaining all this, not just to us and the rest of the Access U team, but incredibly helpful and intuitive for our clients, and to be able to see this data represented in a very user-friendly way, be able to ask you questions, if they have any questions when it comes to their next step or how to read this is so important. So thank you again so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Shoot any questions you got.
Yeah, any questions you got, let us know. You know where to find us. Thanks again for watching and listening to this episode. And if you have any other questions, go to accessu.com. We put out new content every week, and we will not see you next week because we are off for our winter break. But after that, we'll see you again. Thanks. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Access Success Podcast, produced by Access U, a division of Access Advertising and Public Relations. Find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to keep up with what the world of education needs to hear, at Access U Agency, and connect with us at accessu.com. Let's do something big.